Hey guys, Greg Beast here, and here we are for part 2 of my ECD Weapon X review. It has been 3 months. I've had this exact head, the one I showed you in part 1 that I filmed a while ago. I have been doing everything I can, not just to test this head, its flex and everything like that, but also to legitimately try to break the head. My guys at the Westchester Draw Days can attest to it. I've been begging guys to try to break it. Here's the good news: it hasn't broken. It's very resilient. I have purposely not put the spacer that comes with it slash headstand. I haven't put it in here because I want to see how it holds up. Still totally wide enough to play field. You can see this is how warped it is. Now, obviously, let's preface this. I helped design this head, so you can take my word for it to a certain extent. I would also recommend you follow reviews such as Green Knuckles Lacrosse and some other guys just to see what they thought. I'm also going to follow this video up like I did with my last head review with the String King head with a bunch of reviews, just pros and cons from guys that come and train with me regularly because they've been using this head in and out for the last few months as well. Okay, so let's go over the performance review. First, I'm going to go over it just from a speaking standpoint, and then I'm going to do some close-up videos so you guys can see kind of how it works and performs. I have strung this head like I mentioned that I would back in the first review. I have strung this like a shooting head, locks from here down to the very top, and then after that I have wrapped the laces like I always have historically with my face-off heads, and then I locked it back at the bottom. That gave me the optimal amount for the ball to come in and out so it doesn't get stuck. That way the mesh can kind of go in and out really flush to the inside of the sidewall. But it's locked down here so the pocket doesn't move much north-south, and I've been able to rip shots. I've been able to shoot with this thing like it was strung as an offensive mini or an attack head. I am very, very happy with the way it turned out. Like I had mentioned in the first review, the idea behind this head was not to create a FOA head. There's enough out there on the market that you guys can totally choose from. You have the Dual 2, you have the String King head, you have the CEO. Trevor's head is going to drop any day now. Those are plenty of FOA heads out there. And if you like those heads, that's your jam. The idea was not to compete with those. The idea behind this head was to create something for the 90% of the market that is asking me every single day, do you have a head that my son, or do you have a head that I can face off with and play offense with? And not just like catch and throw or get away with like being able to deal with it. The idea was to give you a head where if I didn't tell you it was a face-off head, it just felt like a normal, hard shooting offensive head with a full offset that you can face off with. So like we said, a FOA, face off, stay on. If this was just an attack head or just an offensive head, I think any midfielder would be very pleasantly surprised with how it feels. It does have an asymmetrical wall, but you don't notice it. There's no difference in the stringing pattern on either side. There's no difference in how it feels. The only difference is how it gives you the flexes. So let's go over basically the feel and what I've noticed the best way to face off with this head is. So obviously I have an open stance, knee pointing towards the ball. On the face-off, I have this right wrist cocked back, and my plan is to drive my right hand straight into the ball. Remember, the ball's starting up top here now. So we want to drive this right hand straight into the ball to meet the ball at the strongest portion of the plastic. This, I found the absolute key to the success of this head. Going against CEOs, it does really well. Going against 2F, basically the 2F kind of folds back. This really, if you're a strong player, if you're a quick only player, this might not be your jam, okay? But if you're a guy who drives hard into the ball with the right hand, distributes your weight in, is good at turning and spinning on people, then this would absolutely be something you'd be interested in, because the reason the sidewalls were different was to have the top flex a little bit like a Legacy, a Nike Legacy or a CEO. The bottom sidewall the idea was for it to flex up and wrap up around the ball. So taking lives against college guys, high school guys, not just with this head, but the prototype I originally had during the summer, I immediately fell in love with the fact that when this trestle right here this corner meets any other face-off sidewall, it buries it. And if you do it right, it hits the other team's sidewall, the opposing sidewall, and then drives and cuts straight down into the ball, over and over and over again. And the proof is in the pudding with that. Like we said, I'm 35 years old, and the feeling that I feel like this head definitively makes me feel a little younger, because when I get to the ball a little late, I have the body weight behind this spot right here to drive in and steal the ball from guys. So that was a great, pleasant surprise, because I really didn't know how it was going to act. It's a little bit stronger of a head. It flexes great. So the idea behind these trestles is to give you the flex you would want while still maintaining a stiffer head. So I think that the technicians did a great job on that. The one thing we were curious about was having a string hole right at that meeting point, okay? We were all kind of concerned at first to see if that would be a weak spot. It hasn't been. This trestle is so strong right there that it seems to just bury other face-off heads. So when it flexes around the ball, it's not a concern. Drive in, boom, and right in that cup, that baby sticks right there. Plastic to plastic, and I've been wrenching it as hard as I can to try to get it to break, cutting it back and forth, and it comes right back to its spot. No matter what you do with this thing, it always comes back, which has been a pleasant surprise. So that's been awesome. So now when we look at the scoop, obviously the scoop is strong. So when you look at this scoop here, solid, no cutouts or anything like that. It's got a little bit of a slit inlet, kind of like a faster scoop to try to limit the profile so it's not clunky, but it's a scoop that you would have on any offensive head, and that's what we were going for. This is definitely my favorite type of scoop. It's not flat, and it's not flat like a shovel. It's more like a rounded spoon, so you can get those GBs real easily. Okay, come in, and you have a lot of control. The mesh has been phenomenal. And the way it comes in and out, they have like a thinner profile of the mesh, and then on the outside it's thicker. This mesh shoots like a regular offensive head. It catches like a regular offensive head. Been very, very happy with that. I use one nylon at the top and one lace underneath it, and I've been able to rip shots very accurately with no issues at all. There's been no bagging or stretching of this mesh, and that's, like we said, 3 months. So everything's legal and everything's great. The sidewall holes have held up. There's no squishing or anything like that. People were asking, why did you guys put an insertable throat and the multiple holes for the screws? And to be honest, we didn't want any weaknesses. Why not, right? Why not have an insertable throat with extra screw holes? I haven't even used this screw hole. I've used this one and this one. This thing has zero wiggle. It's tight. I've used it on both a Maverick Union, a Maverick Apollo, and a Focus shaft. So I've been really happy with the way it's worked. I've also used it on an STX Alliance shaft during our scrimmage against Yale. So it's been tight and it hasn't wiggled on any of those shafts. I've always been an alloy guy. I don't like the carbon fiber stuff that much, so it's worked really, really well. So that's been the key. No wiggle here. The throat is super strong. It reminds me of the Nas, okay? The Nas had a huge advantage with that cup right here, but it's got a much leaner profile than the Nas. So you still get the stealth of cutting in and out on the ball, especially if you're an neutral grip guy, okay? So if you're a neutral grip guy and you cut in, there's this ball, the sidewall slides right underneath the ball. So it gets underneath. You barely need anything to be able to pop this ball out when you go neutral grip. So that's been awesome. If you're a standing neutral grip guy and you play a lot of midi, or if you're a backup face-off guy and you like to stand up, dude, this is your head. This thing is offset, full possible offset. So here's the cons, and this is the thing that I think guys need to be aware of. We're in season right now, so you may or may not want to try this. I would recommend at least get it as a backup so that you get used to it. You probably won't get used to this head overnight. You're going to need a couple weeks. And the reason being is it's the only head out there with this full offset to make it feel like an offensive head. A lot of the heads out there right now are very flexible, and they don't have quite this offset. They have kind of a little bit of a slight cant. So when you line up with holding the ball or holding the stick in your hand, you might feel like, man, I feel like I'm a little bit further away from the action, okay? The reality of it is you're not. It's just that it's on an angle rather than straight. So it will take you a second to get used to it. But once you get used to the fact that basically with this head, the idea is drive in, saw down, and rip. And if you can get that technique down, you're going to fall in love with it, because when you cut in hard, the profile is lean enough where you'll cut up underneath the ball, because that's what this bottom sidewall does. It wraps up underneath the ball. If you meet someone 50-50 and you like to drive over it, you're going to have that advantage with this sidewall, because it's the strongest sidewall that you're going to see on a face-off particular head out there on the market right now. But some guys will not like the offset feel, or some guys are, in fact, true Fogos, and they don't need all this extra stuff. So it'll be totally dependent on what you're looking for and if you're willing to kind of take the time to get used to it. What I can say is I'm excited for the summer, because I had gotten the first original prototype when I just got back from Israel last July, and the head performs phenomenally in the summer when it's hot. So when you're going against other heads that are flimsy or warp really, really badly, you're going to have a head that's not going to do that. So that's what's pretty cool about this. So that's the plus and the minus. The offset takes some getting used to. Once you get used to it, it's going to feel weird to go back. But we have full offset, lean profile. Yes, the sidewalls are slightly different on either side. That is for the flex. It has nothing to do with string holes. It has nothing to do with how the pocket's going to be. The pocket will still be completely symmetrical. And that's always something I've been big on. If you have to make the sidewall trestles different, that's fine, but do not compromise the pocket or how it feels as an actual lacrosse head. The scoop, in my opinion, is world class. That's what we were going for. Then you add the mesh to this face-off specific mesh. We wanted it to be great for face-off guys, but we also wanted it to perform like a regular offensive mesh. So we didn't want it to start bagging out. We didn't want it to be so soft that you can't shoot hard with it. You can rip shots with this. From day one, it's really soft on the inside because it's got a soft pattern to it. And then on the outside, it's thicker, so it has more endurance for rubbing up against the turf. As you can see here, there's very little damage to the sidewalls. Okay, so they've held up very, very well, which has been great. And like I said, the head has maintained its face shape, regardless of how much we try to beat it up. Now, is that to say it won't eventually crack? Of course not. But the idea is for you to have a head that you don't have to switch back and forth. You know, I've always felt silly playing for the Lizards in practice, having a shooting stick and then going to face off and grabbing another stick. And there we didn't have a choice because the heads would get so warped. There's no possible way you could shoot and play optimally offensively, especially for someone like myself. I played man up in college. I played midi my entire career. So being somebody who felt inept with your stick was something that really bothered me, because it wasn't the skills, it was the equipment. And that's what we're trying to get rid of here. We don't want you guys to have to feel handicapped by the equipment you're using. So if you're an offensive-minded face-off guy, or if you're an offensive player who faces off, we tried to solve that with this head. Okay, so once again, ECD Weapon X comes in white, comes in black. Okay, I used the white one. This is 3 months of use right here. The mesh is soft in the middle, hard on the outside, shoots and catches like a normal offensive head. Full offset, insertable throat with a 3-screw system. It's up to you how many screws you want to use. And then obviously the signature crab on the front, which is pretty awesome. Okay, so that's my ECD performance review, just from a speaking standpoint. And now I'm going to follow this video up. Don't go anywhere. We're going to have some reviews from guys, pros and cons at the high school level. And then I'm also going to show you close-up videos of how it flexes.